Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Anime Iceberg. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And
I'm Ruth.
yes, our special guest for our first installment of talking about movies, I guess.
Yeah, we don't have a name. We don't have a name for it. I guess we should come up with one, but our monthly movies.
There we go.
That's
That's good
that.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just wanted to cover more than just whatever show we'll be talking about, since the shows will take a while to complete. So, to get around to some of our other interests, we decided we would christen this new section with Howl's Moving Castle being our first movie to talk about.
Yeah. It's great.
Huge.
Yes, and we have Ruth on because she is a Howl's Moving Castle expert.
Oh yes, I have watched it like 20 times in the past year.
Oh my goodness. I was just telling Megan. Okay, so I just watched Howl's Moving Castle for the first time. I don't know, like when I was home one time last year,
Uh-huh.
and I have seen it 4 times in the last year, and I thought that was a lot.
Yeah, let's just go through our history with the movie first,
Oh
I
yeah.
guess. So, like you said, Meg, your history was like just really recent. My history is technically pretty recent. About a year ago, you were like, "Hey, let's watch this one weekend," and I loved it. But actually, I had seen maybe the first half of it when I was 13, I think, because my eighth grade art teacher was a huge Miyazaki fan, and there was one class period where she was like, I want to show you guys this film. You just got to pay attention to the painted backgrounds and like the beauty of it. Uh, and I never got to finish it because I had to leave for a track meet. So, honestly, at that point in my life, I was kind of into the movie, but a lot of the like the magic stuff, including The Witch of the Waste, just kind of creeped me out a bit, so I never returned to it. Um, and also, I was too young to be swayed by Howl's charms.
That's kind of funny. Yeah. I feel like the first time I watched it, it was like one night in October and I was just like I don't know if I was like in the field, but like I just like needed a moment to just like take a break and it's like late at night. And I was just like scrolling through like, HBO Max and I was like Studio Ghibli, perfect time for this. And then I saw this and I was like, this is pretty good. And I watched it. I knew nothing about it, which is like I feel like every time I watch a show or like a movie, like I already know everything about it, even though I haven't watched it before. And this one I hadn't. So I watched it and I was like, I finished. I was like, oh my gosh, that was so good. And now it's like my go-to,
Life,
like every
Yeah.
time.
Hey,
life changed.
Yes, my life
some
changed.
movies do that to you.
Yes.
Well, let's first start with just some basic info about the movie. That Howl's Moving Castle is a Studio Ghibli movie. If you don't know what that is, it's Megan, it's like an animation studio
Yeah,
in
I
in
would say it's
Japan.
like the Disney of Japan, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And there's this director, Hayao Miyazaki, and makes he directs a lot of the movies, and he directed this one, and it's great. Um,
Gorgeous,
and
phenomenal, spectacular.
yeah, yeah. And then also the composer, we gotta mention the music is
Oh,
amazing.
yes,
Um,
it's very iconic. I feel like every time I listen to like my Studio Ghibli playlist because I have that for when I study.
Yes.
Every time I hear like a like a Moving Castle song, I'm like,
Mm.
oh, this is the vibes.
Yeah, you guys will hear it when this episode comes out, but I recorded myself playing violin for the third.
the merry-go-round of life.
That's
Yeah.
That one. Yes, that one's great. Anyway, the composer is Joe Hisaishi, and he does a lot of the Studio Ghibli movies, and he's excellent. And I also have a Studio Ghibli playlist. Well, it's part of my anime soundtrack
Yeah,
playlist.
I listen to that playlist a lot.
Yeah, it's got all the, I mean, like all the Studio Ghibli movies are phenomenal, and then like it also has like Attack on Titan and Doctor Stone and Full Metal, and like all of those soundtracks are excellent.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, the movie is actually based on a book by Diana Wynne Jones, and Megan and I read the book, so we will share our thoughts on that. And she is, I don't know actually, is she English? I would guess. I'm actually
Well, they
gonna Google
mentioned
it.
Wales in the book.
Yeah, I think British novelist.
Hmm.
Yeah. Honestly, she seems like an awesome person
Yeah.
because to come up with a character, literally to come up with any of these characters, you gotta
Did
you
you
gotta
read
be.
the dedication?
Yes, I did. I did.
Yeah, it was like
Um,
a student of hers, a little boy, just said you should write a book with a moving castle in it or something like that,
yep.
right?
And
Yeah.
that was the inspiration for the book.
Oh my gosh, that's actually so awesome that like that came out of that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she must have had some ideas like in the
Yeah,
back of her mind, and then he said moving castle, and all of a sudden, that's the
yeah.
thing
Yeah,
that.
I think, well, so in my book, she I can actually read that now. Um, that it came from a boy, and she's uh the question that this uh extra asked is, you say on the dedication page that a young boy gave you the idea for the moving castle, but did it spring into your mind fully formed or take time to develop? And she says, when the boy gave me the idea of a moving castle, I knew at once that I would want to write about it, but it took a long time to decide how. I needed to discover Howl and Sophie first. This didn't happen for about 3 years, by which time I had totally forgotten the safe place where I had put the boy's name and address.
No.
Yeah, so he really like gave her the concept, and then she like took the time to figure out, okay, what is this
That's
gonna look
so
like?
awesome.
Yeah. And then Howl's Moving Castle, the movie, the book came out in what year?
1986.
1986. Yep, 1986, and the movie came out 2004. And it has won a lot of awards. I don't want to list all of them.
Yeah, there's too many.
There's too many.
Go to
It's won a
Wiki.
lot of things. Yeah, go to Wikipedia if you want to know. Um, yeah, so we're not gonna like break down the movie scene by scene. That would be too much.
Yep.
So we're just gonna kind of talk about the movie and why it's great. So we're gonna start with a breakdown of the characters. And we gotta start with Sophie.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
She surprised me because, well, she's like a Disney princess, but better. I mean, there's lots of Disney princesses that I love, but with Sophie, she just has like, uh, that quiet, gentle spirit, but a strong heart. Um, she's
Mm-hmm.
got a very beautiful heart, and like she's quirky in the right ways and funny at times and a bit sassy, which is great.
Yeah.
But she just feels like she's an ordinary girl, but she's way more than that.
Mm-hmm.
She's a very like realistic, relatable character. Like watching it, I'm like, oh, there are parts of her that I'm like, yeah, that's definitely me. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, same sister, I get you.
Yeah. But the parts of her that are like so strong are like her perseverance. Like she gets cursed and this horrible thing happens to her, but then she tells herself, like she has her moments of freak out, which everyone needs. But then she tells herself like it's gonna be okay. You can do this. It's gonna be okay. And like she just keeps going and she stays calm considering. And then she also has this great love and forgiveness within her where the witch who cursed her, literally by the end of the movie, she's welcoming her into her family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's so kind. And I just love that like people are drawn to her. Like
Yeah.
she just like they just glob onto her. They sense
And
that she's an awesome person.
yeah, and she's not kind in the way of like, Toru Honda from Fruits Basket, where she's like endlessly compassionate and loving and like just gives
Mm-hmm.
people what they need and like
Yeah. And
I mean
kind of
she's
in a
not.
way like rolls over like, "Oh, you need this? Yes, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
exactly.
do
And
this for you even though it's very inconvenient for me."
right, and
Sophie's not like that.
she's like Toru's not perfect, but she just tries and she loves, and that's what makes people love her in return. But with Sophie, it's like she tries and she loves and she cares, but also she's gonna give you some lip if you're gonna be mean to her. Like the
Yeah,
stare scene.
she's not taking your crap.
Yeah, I love the stare scene, like just mocking the witch
Oh,
and then turning around and be like, "Oh, well, come on now, you can do it." That is
So
awesome.
great. That
yeah.
that part was so funny.
Yeah.
No,
I think
I love the just like off the steps, like just, like the heavy breathing, and she's just like, I can't do this.
It reminds me of that scene from Up where the two old men are fighting.
Yep. Yeah, it totally is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's just a great female lead because I think that she does it's like a great balance between like strong, independent woman and but still with like vulnerabilities. Like
Yes,
it's just great.
because I will get into this as we continue talking about Dr. Stone and other forms of media, but female characters are just really hard to write sometimes to make them relatable enough and lovable enough. And you either get like the I'm the tomboy who doesn't really give a rip about anything but ends up caring about you anyway, or you get the like, oh, save me, damsel in distress.
Yeah.
So there's just this like a hard I don't know. I mean, I've heard it said, like, psychologically speaking, that male protagonists are just easier for both males and females to relate to. But with female protagonists, it's like way, way harder for whatever reason. So this movie is just one example of like, you did it right.
Mm-hmm. Great protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got to talk about our leading man. Okay, we will keep the fangirling to a minimum. Me and Megan were talking early. We were like, we gotta like when we're alone, we can talk about it as much as we want. But here, no. First, quick poll here. Who here has fallen for his charms?
Every girl raises her hand.
Honestly,
Yeah, Ruth, what about you?
I'm not that easy.
I think on a scale, I'd say Meg is the one who's too far gone. I saw your face while we were watching this movie.
Oh my gosh.
It's just like
You're just like holding your heart the whole time, going, "Ah."
there's just a few things that he says and does that just like they get me. I like for the most part, like in real life, if he was a real man, I think I would be like, no,
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
But in this setting and seeing him with Sophie, I think it's great.
Thing.
Like he needs because he's with Sophie, it makes him way better.
Yes.
Like that's what
I
he
think that's the
needs.
main thing. I think it's more of Sophie and Hal's relationship that makes me go, oh, that's so cute. When Hal's hair turned black, I will admit having more of like a love of his character design.
Oh yes, when his hair turned black out.
Yeah, I know. My favorite character design of his, yeah, is when he's got the black hair and he's got his white blouse and like that's
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
he looks more,
mhm,
I don't know, like relaxed, I suppose.
mhm.
So I think he's a great character. Like I said, I'm probably in the middle of you two guys with just like he has this moments where I'm like, yes, they knew what they were doing when they designed him. Um, and then Ruth, you just sort of like he's a great character, but I don't feel that way.
Yeah, I love how overdramatic he is.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. There's no point in living if I can't be beautiful. And then he literally like summons
Slime.
like dark spirits because he just like can't handle it. I'm like, dude, calm down.
If
Like,
I could interject, in the book, the slime scene also happens.
Uh-huh.
But I think they do a really good job of explaining why, because when Sophie comes to him afterward and is like, "Are you done with your tantrums?" She knows that there's something deeper going on. Like it's not just he's upset about what happened
Mhm.
with his hair and the
Mhm.
color change.
uh-huh.
He's like stressed about something. And I feel like they don't really get into that in the movie, maybe in part because they want Howl to seem kind of like concerned about
Yeah,
being a
I feel
pretty
like
boy.
in the movie they definitely that's how they want him to
Yeah.
come across.
But I do think
Yeah.
that could be part of it, is that like with all the things happening in his life, this freak out moment is what he needed to just be like, I just gotta scream and shout and get something off my chest.
Mm-hmm.
Because when that moment happens for Howl, Sophie has a similar moment where she goes outside and cries for a little bit, and then she turns around, marches right back inside, and she's good again. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you just need that release.
Yeah, yeah. In the book it's like way like he it's not just his house. It's literally like the whole town is like filled with green slime and people are like running to the lake or the ocean and like they're screaming like in the whole town. Like it's way more dramatic and
Yeah.
it's
That's hilarious.
hilarious. And she spends like the whole book being like, okay, I can't make him turn into green slime again because that's disastrous. Yeah, he I really like Howl as a character because like when you first meet him, you're like, oh, he's just all about himself. He doesn't really care about anyone else. But then as the movie goes on, you see like, oh, he actually really cares about everyone. And like he does the small things that like shows that he cares. Like when he makes that the hat shop for Sophie. Like that was like for me the turning point where I was like, oh, this is killing me. Um, it's so sweet. And like he doesn't say it, but like you can see on his face, like
Mm-hmm.
he wants to make them happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like when he starts calling their little group of family, uh, it's like, oh, our little family's growing. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay, we might have to make a poll for Instagram, but I'm going to say an anime hot take that may get me banned from the interwebs. I like Howl as a character more than Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh,
Oh,
I agree.
Oh,
100%. 100%. I love how I like it.
I
Definitely.
think Gojo, he's not a bad character in any way.
No.
no.
He's just way overrated. Like,
Dude, we are on the same boat.
Man, okay, I gotta get my friend Ellie in here for a podcast one time because I asked her the same question. She's like, "Oh, I'd have to say Gojo."
yeah, I feel like when it comes to my anime opinions, I'm usually on the side that has less people on it, and I'm aware that I could easily get hate if I shared said opinions.
Be unapologetic about it.
Yeah, no, we're with you on
They're
this.
just cartoon characters.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about them and we love them, but they're just cartoon characters.
Well, the problem is like I'm right. That's my attitude about it. I'm right. I know I'm right.
Oh, yeah, we could have a whole conversation. And we did talk about having an episode where we talk about our anime hot takes.
Oh, you have to bring me to that. I have a
Unleash
lot
the
to
beast.
share. I would get people would probably hate me though, but like
They're gonna hunt you down.
I don't care.
Our 5 listeners are gonna find you.
Could
Yes.
get more. I don't know.
Because I'm definitely easy to find.
Okay, moving on to characters before we get too distracted.
Yeah.
We have Markle, the little boy who's Howl's apprentice. His name is actually Michael in the book, which makes sense, but it's kind of cute to have that separation between Michael and Markle because I
Mhm.
feel like Markle is just a little boy's name, so I can keep
Yeah.
the two of them separate in my head because of that.
Yeah.
He's like the embodiment of innocence, who I think he's really the one who connects with Sophie to begin with. And
Mhm. Yeah, they really get along well. And he's so sweet. And he's definitely he's definitely a little kid in that he doesn't like, I don't know, Sophie and Kelsifer really like push Howl to do things and really tend to get in his face about stuff, where Markle's like, I'm just here living life. And also I love the relationship between Sophie and Markle because
yeah.
it's like I mean, you said like older sister and little brother, and I agree. And like he needs a family, and it like so sweet. I love him. So cute.
I want to know his tragic backstory.
Mm-hmm. I
Yep.
mean, I'm assuming it's kind of similar to the book, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like. But
Yeah.
yes.
And then the rest of the family, we got Calcifer, who is the most moral demon I have ever met.
Oh yes.
I know they like always call him a demon, but
It's just a fire
I
spirit. I think
yeah,
evil
I don't
spirit would be a better word for him. He's a
And
fallen
and
star.
like yeah, I was like to say he's a falling star. That's not I would consider that a demon. Um he's great and he's voiced by
Billy Crystal, who
Billy
is
Crystal.
Mike Wazowski and Miracle Max, and he's just been in so much. He's awesome.
Uh-huh.
Really
He's
funny guy.
great. Yes.
We forgot to say, okay, there's a lot of great voice actors in here, but we forgot to say Howl's voiced by Christian Bale.
Oh yeah.
Batman.
Yeah, so no, it's so funny because this movie came out in 2004. I think the first Batman movie came out 2006.
Mm.
And he definitely like uses in the dream scene, he uses his Batman voice. Like it's totally like that is the voice that he uses in the Batman movies.
That
It's
is
so
so
funny.
I think they picked the right voice actor for him though, just to
I
make
think
Howl
it's
that like um that's my girl, that tone
yeah.
he has is like he's supposed to be sort of like a ladies' man, but he's a pretty boy, but give him a deep voice so that he's still masculine and
mhm.
yeah, he also played the original Jack Kelly in Newsies, and I cannot believe how deep his voice got from what was that 1991 to like I mean like
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
a bit
crazy. Yeah, he was like 18 in that movie.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. But anyway, Calcifer is great.
Yeah. He's so cute. I mean, like his moments with Sophie, he kind of he comes off as a little persnickety and a little sassy and abrasive, but then like there are parts like when Sophie is at the end of the movie when she's putting him back with Howl, he's like, "Well, I think it'll be okay if you do it." And he's like just so he's kind of
Mhm.
defenseless, really, because he's
Yeah, he is. He's kind of dependent on Howl's whims, which is a very scary thing. Uh, yeah, we love him. And then we've got the Witch of the Waste, who honestly, I see
Hmm.
you wrote that you said the absolute worst, or maybe not. Honestly, she's not great. Even in the end, she like takes his heart and like she's the one that causes the problems. Even
She
though like
does.
it does end up like that is what they needed,
Hmm.
but
But I would say that after Sophie like talks to her, hugs her, and doesn't she say
mhm
something like "You have a beautiful heart"? She just like I think she takes a turn because she's been acting selfish all this time, and then she got stripped of her powers, and then Sophie shows kindness to her when she's at her weakest. I think by the end of the movie, she's kind of come to this point where she's like, I think I could be content living with these people and not getting the thing that I wanted. Like
mhm
I don't think she'll be causing any more problems, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, yeah, I agree. Obviously, she's a very important character because she's the one that curses Sophie, and she's after Howl, which is kind of I don't know. I was entertained by that part, and I just thought like, oh, he's such a handsome man, so
I
great.
I just don't really care for her initial character design.
Oh
Yeah, it's very off-putting.
That's the thing that made me, back in the eighth grade, made me go, I don't know if I want to finish this movie. She's kind of freaking me out. But
yeah.
in the book, she's kind of described as more of what you would think, traditionally speaking, like, the evil feminine presence of being like seductively beautiful.
Yeah. And then Sophie's family, the people that appear are her mother and her sister.
Letty, yeah.
Letty, yep. Honestly, like
They're better.
I feel like you could have excluded Letty from the movie and it would have been
Oh yeah,
fine.
I feel like she didn't really like
Yeah.
add anything to the story at all.
I'm glad she made an appearance because it proves that Sophie has, a good family
Yeah,
too. And to like, I don't like her mom in the movie because she's just not present in Sophie's life in a good way.
Mm.
But like in the book, her family's fine. Her family's actually kind of great. I mean, they all have.
Except for her mom is still
Well,
just
you
okay.
haven't finished the few
Okay, yeah.
chapters.
I haven't
Fine.
finished yet.
I'll just say she's fine.
Remember
Okay.
when she like betrayed Sophie? I was like, how could you?
Yeah, she's a stepmother. She's a stepmother.
She is?
Yes.
Wait,
Yep.
her stepmother, not her actual mother?
Mm-hmm. That explains
Yep.
a little bit more.
Oh my god.
Classic evil step. Well, not evil, but classic negligent
Like she doesn't have like
fairy tales.
The
that
connect.
attachment. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like Sophie's family in this is very, very much like caught up in their own world is really what it is.
Well,
Don't have a lot of time for her.
they missed
but-
out on the magic, so
Yep.
on them.
And then yeah, Madame Solomon, which very different character in the book, so that's interesting. She's like the head wizard or something, the royal wizard or whatever.
And she trained Howl and the Witch of the Waste, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently.
In the movies, yes.
Yeah, and so she's like half wise mentor character, but half partial antagonist because she does oppose Howl at one point. But by the end of the movie, when things are resolved, she's just like, all is well. I'm not going to be bothering him again.
Yeah, the whole thing was weird because like once it was resolved, like literally the war was going on
Well, she was acting under the king's
Partially-
orders, so
partially because of him, because like once the stuff with Howl was resolved, then she was like, all right, now it's time to end the war. It was like, what the heck? Girl?
she's just waiting for things to be in motion. And like, I guess her position is kind of difficult because she's under the king, but she's very powerful. So I just chalk it up to I don't need to understand it.
Yeah, I think she's one character I like still can't understand after watching it like 20 times. I'm just like, you make no sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then the final character I wanted to talk about was Turnip Head, who is the best.
Oh yes.
He's so funny. Like he's just hopping around, doing his thing.
I am partial to scarecrows because I'm a Wizard of Oz fan. But yeah, he's there. There's also a dog that's in the movie, which I mean he doesn't have like
Oh,
character
yes.
development, but it's just kind of nice to have a little animal sidekick.
Team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
He's
And
in the book
he's
too,
just like
kind of.
this old dog who's just like I feel like
Like, dude, that was perfect.
Was it? Like the little
He just, like-
wheezing.
like he's like huffing like when he like walks up the steps is just like, oh, he's an old dog.
And then Meg was like, that little stinker could fly this whole time. We saw him flap his little ears and take. He didn't need to be carried up.
Yeah, he was being a little stinker.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing about like Turnip Head is like after watching it like 5 times, it took me like 5 times to realize that once he had turned back, that he was the prince who like the whole war had like started over.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, wait, oh my gosh, that all makes sense now. And I was like,
Yeah, you really have to.
He's Turnip Head.
You have to pay attention in the background because you can hear people in the streets talking about like, oh,
Yeah.
did you hear
Mm-hmm.
we're missing, and they're
Yeah.
they're talking about war.
And like at the end, when he turned back, he was very like briefly mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like, yeah. And but also,
It just had to happen real quick.
it was so sad when he was like, "I love you, Sophie." And she was like,
Because it was True Love's
No.
kiss. She gave him a little peck on the cheek, and he transformed, and it's like True Love's kiss.
Yeah.
And okay, the one line I appreciated from The Witch of the Waste was like, "How does it feel to know your true love's in love with someone else?"
I was so sad for him, and I was just like torn. I was like, but I feel like he didn't like for Sophie. You know, he was a turnip, and he couldn't really speak.
Yeah.
She
It
didn't
wasn't
know.
like-
There was no attraction because there couldn't
Yeah.
be any. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I
that-
think about Bella
That would be weird.
Uh,
That
Oh my gosh.
that's another topic.
yeah, this is another topic for another time.
Sorry.
I think like, but he has such a great attitude at the end though. He's like, oh, that's okay.
He just
Like-
bounces away.
Yep.
Better go win this war.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that was a little heartbreaking for me. I was like, "Oh, poor guy.
Yeah. I mean,
Lovely."
he was probably just sort of like, well, that's
Yeah.
how it is, and I didn't spend as much time with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still solid character.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. The next thing we briefly wanted to discuss was the book, Howl's Moving Castle. We don't want to give away too much because you got to go read it for yourself, but suffice to say, it's different and yet similar, but the differences are enough that you can enjoy it as a separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I wasn't like
Uh,
mad when I was reading it, like they got this wrong, or the movie was better, or the book was better. I like them both independently.
Yep, I think they're both great in their own rights. They definitely are different, but I would say they have the same um general spirit
Mm-hmm.
to them, and the
That's
characters are pretty they're similar. They're pretty similar, but they do have some differences, like personality wise, and I love it. Like I would say one thing is Sophie is like way. Do you think she's like no nonsense in the movie? She's way more no nonsense in the book, and it's great.
She's very cute,
Um,
too, like poking around and everything.
yeah, which
Um,
you kind of get it right away in the
yeah,
movie.
yeah. But like
Um,
Howell calls her like big nose or something like that. Like keep your big nose out of my business.
mhm.
Yeah. Um, I think, well, one thing I like is that there's a character named Megan. I won't say who she is because that is kind of technically a spoiler, but yeah, I guess to entice you to read the book, Howl, his aliases in the movie, like Howl Pendragon or the Wizard Jenkins, all of those, there's actual meaning to them in the book. So if you're curious about why he has so many different aliases and where they come from, read the book.
Yeah, definitely. We would both recommend the book for sure. It's a great read.
Hmm.
Very entertaining, and it's like it's short too.
Hmm.
It's easy to read. I think since the author is British and it was written in 1986, there is some like language that I'm like, oh, I don't quite know what she means by this, but I can, based on the context, I can
Yeah, yeah,
basically get it.
kind of fun.
Um,
And then when you're done with the book, I have a suggested video on YouTube. It's by Lavender Town, but she did a series where she draws book characters like that have movie adaptations, but she's like, here's how they looked in the movie, but I'm gonna draw them exactly how they're supposed to look from the book. So she's done like Percy Jackson and Harry Potter and all those, but she did one for Howl's Moving Castle, and she's like, overall, I just really like the designs that Miyazaki chose. But if you're curious about the differences between the book and the movie, it's a pretty neat video to check out.
mhm.
I might have to watch that. That makes me very curious.
Yeah, just
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
and outfits and things like that.
Yeah, you should definitely check it out. We'll share it somewhere, maybe on like a
I can do a
playlist on
playlist on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So we'll share it on our channel. Oh, actually, before we move on to the next section, I did want to share. So the interview with the author, there was two questions that I wanted to share her answers to. My bookmark just fell out of the book.
Oh
That's okay. I'm close enough to where I can figure out what it is. Okay, so the first question that I want to talk about was her opinion on the Miyazaki's interpretation of her book. And she says, I was surprised by Miyazaki's moving castle because I had not thought of the castle having feet. In the book I wrote, the castle is more like a hovercraft and floats an inch or so above the ground, but I am very fond of Miyazaki's castle. I have several models of it around the house. As for Howl and Sophie, both of them are gentler and more noble than the characters in my books, but I wasn't surprised by this. Movies are always different. I have several models of Howl and Sophie around the house too, and quite a few calcifers, one of which sits in the fireplace.
It's so cute. And you
Yeah.
know what? She's right. They're a little more what's a good word? Like, abrasive in the book. Like
Mm-hmm.
a part that I was just in stitches over was when Sophie was first trying to get into the castle, she couldn't find the right door to open. The book said something like she screeched out a curse word that young women should not know. And I just imagine Sophie looking for a door and shrieking like the F-bomb or something while she's trying to as an old lady.
Yep. That's be amazing.
Not that I approve of cursing like that.
That's
mhm.
so funny.
Okay, and then another question that I was very entertained by. This one's kind of long. The question was, the Wizard Howl has charmed many readers across the world. What do you make of that? And here's what she said. The one big, strange fact about Howl is that almost every young woman who reads about him wants to marry him. They began wanting to before the book was even published, and they all confessed their wish quite openly. Yesterday, I was doing a question and answer session in a London theater, and a teenage girl put her hand up and said, without any embarrassment at all, that she had long wanted to marry Howl, and would I mind? I wondered whether to ask her if she would mind everywhere being covered with green slime when Howl's hair went wrong, or if she minded coping with a man who had head colds like a drama queen, or being twisted around Howl's little finger, or would it worry her that the man was a terrible coward, or always falling in love with other women, or ... But I could see she regarded these facts as a challenge. So I sat with my mouth open for a second and then told her that she had now joined the end of a very long line that stretches at least once around the world. This didn't appear to trouble her unduly. My opinion of Howl is that, much as I love him, he is the last person I would want to marry. Apart from anything else, I would want to get in the bathroom sometimes. See what you think when you read this book.
I'm impressed that girls were fawning over him just by reading or hearing about the book, because I thought maybe the movie made girls really connect with him more, but
funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, if you guys ever do anything on A Sign of Affection,
oh, I just finished that one.
that.
Oh, I was
could-
dying,
and
man.
we could go into that, but
Meg, you're gonna die when
feel
you
like-
watch that.
I feel like how some people feel about him is kind of similar to like the obsession with Howl in some ways. In some ways, like with the charm. But I feel like
but he's quiet. Howl's loud.
Yeah, I feel like with the charm and like there are certain similarities in the characters. I feel like that's what girls like fall for in Howl. But I'm not gonna say anything about him because Meg has to see for herself and melt.
Yeah, that's my plan to watch it. I just finished watching
character design, so she knows that.
Yeah. Oh, he is.
I just finished watching Orange, so
you're welcome for the trauma.
Also,
it's one of my favorites.
If you talk about F affection, I actually have a chat on my Discord where we talked about this guy, and it's hilarious.
I want to see that.
I will take screenshots and show you.
Please.
It's hilarious. And I'll give you the context too, which makes it even more funny. But
yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Anyway, moving on to more Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, let's talk about Howl's Moving Castle. No more of Howl.
Yeah. For our closing thoughts about the movie as a whole. First of all, we've already mentioned this, but the music is the best. It's so whimsical and like nostalgic, and it just kind of there's like a lullaby aspect to it, I think. Especially like the when they're walking through the sky.
And it's so romantic.
Yeah, it is. The skywalk gives me the same vibes as, and you guys, I mean, Meg, you know how much I love Aladdin. It gives me the same vibes as the Magic Carpet Ride.
Yeah.
Realistic date expectations, Disney and Miyazaki.
Yeah. If I don't walk in the sky on my first date, no.
The best you can get is a Ferris wheel. How's that?
Oh no, I hate Ferris wheels. I like roller coaster, like as intense as it gets. I'm like, yes, please, but Ferris wheels, I will literally be like,
I get that.
No heights.
Yeah.
No, like slow heights. In a roller coaster, you're going so fast, you're like, yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
But
next, animation. All of Miyazaki's films, even with more simplistic character designs, there's a lot of attention to detail in the animation. You can see it in how the characters move and how they perform simple tasks. Like, the thing that comes to mind for me in this movie is when they're cooking breakfast with Calcifer. And you see how, like, crack the eggs. In an animation, you're
Hmm.
drawing frame by frame. So what they could have done is just done every other frame and just did like the yolk plopping into the pan. But no, they animated him like cracking it against the pan, opening the eggshell up. I think he did it one-handed because he's a mad lad. And then like just all of the things that he did to cook and prepare food and like walking over and setting the table, slicing the bread. They didn't need to animate that much, but they did because they want to immerse you in the world.
I feel like watching that whole scene, like with animation, like aesthetically, I was just like, oh, I am pleased.
Right. That
Yes.
is definitely, I think that's like the most like aesthetically pleasing scene in the
Yes.
movie.
Yep.
It's great.
You
And
want
just,
eggs and bacon, even
and,
though that's
Uh-huh.
and just like how like perfectly it's cooked to your, oh,
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. It's sometimes anime food
Mm.
is so good.
Yes.
And then you get the real thing and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Like like in reality, I don't want eggs and bacon for breakfast. Personally.
It's the same thing with like watching like a Disney movie or a DreamWorks movie and you're like, man, the food looks amazing. And you try making it yourself and you're like, I think it looked better than it's gonna taste.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing was the way the characters interact, much like having to do with the animation and how the characters move. Their interactions within the story, like how they're written and how they play out, is really great. Like the hugs that they give each other, the little things that they do for each other. One of my favorite scenes is when Sophie and Marco are trying to drag Howl up the stairs after his slime incident, and his towel falls off, and
I
the scene goes down, and it's perfect comedic timing because you hear this like wet
Yeah.
noise, and then Sophie looks behind her, and you just see the towel, and she just like
Looks
rolls
up.
her eyes up to the ceiling and keeps walking.
Yeah. That proposal was funny. So you're just like, oh nope, looking the other way.
Yeah, like that's one of those comedic moments that just transcends cultures. Like it doesn't matter
Mhm.
if you're watching in Japanese or in English or in any other language, you will laugh because it's kind of universal.
Yeah. She's like, Marco, help me.
Get the bath ready.
Oh yeah, so good.
That part was
Um,
Speaking of the English version, very solid voice acting as always. I was just talking with a small group of friends about this, but we were talking about how they always get some major actor, like pretty big name actors, but they make sure that they're good voice actors. So
mhm.
versions are always great. I haven't seen too many clips of the subbed versions, like the original Japanese versions, but what I have seen again, like they're top tier. These are good movies.
Yeah, I think Ruth has seen it in sub.
Yeah, I have. I've seen it
Awesome.
like a third of the time in sub because usually when I watch it with other people and they're like, you have to watch it in dub, and I'm
Right,
just
right.
like, fine.
Well, I mean, you can pay better attention to the animation when
Yeah.
you can just listen.
Although I feel like for me, I'm so used to watching in sub, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Although also when I watch in dub, then I'm like, oh, I should be reading like the subtitles, and then I'm like confused. I'm like, wait, I can't. I'm like, I can't hear without my subtitles.
Yep.
You know what that means?
Yes.
Yeah.
That meme is now the story of my life. Like, if it's in English, I'm like, I can't hear without my subtitles.
Yeah, so I guess to close off this discussion, we're just gonna talk about some of our favorite lines.
Yeah, we wrote a bunch of our favorite lines down. I don't know if Ruth you want to add to this because I think we got a lot of good ones.
Yeah. Oh, one I this is the last one on our list, but I wanted to start with it because this line stuck with me for some reason for like so solidly that I remembered it 10 years later. 10 years, well, almost
Whoa.
9 years later. After seeing a little bit of it in 8th grade and then watching it for the first time in full last year. And it was when Sophie said, "Why do you get so cold when you're old? I'm fatter than ever, yet the wind blows right through me." And I could quote that verbatim when we watched it. I knew exactly when the line was coming up, too.
That's hilarious.
I don't know.
And I think she actually says that line in the book too.
Yes.
Or something very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
why
very
that
funny.
because it was funny. It's not like hilarious. Why did it stick with me that long?
Yeah. You're just like, oh, I guess gotta prepare for old age. You're storing that away for old age. That's really what it was. Yes. And then I will share, we have a lot of lines here, but my favorite one is at the end when Hal was like, Sophie, your hair looks like starlight. It's so beautiful.
That was
I
so
just,
That
sweet.
was beautiful. Oh.
it was, and it just
A
the
little boy
moment,
when he
like
said that.
yes, he's so earnest. Like
Yeah.
that's what I really love about that line.
Mhm.
I love the part where it's like, Sophie, you're beautiful. And I'm just like,
Yeah,
right?
because she's like, I've never been beautiful. Like earlier in the movie, she said, I've never been beautiful once in my whole life. It's like, but Sophie, you're beautiful. And he said it like, are you an idiot? You don't know you're beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
No, you know, how will be in a boy band?
Honestly,
Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine that. That'd be terrible.
Be in a boy band with Gojo.
oh no, don't go there.
Jojo.
Oh yes.
And then Captain Levi, he'd be the aloof one.
Dazai. Dazai would
Yep.
be. Hmm.
I feel like Dazai would be like the edgy one, but like he's secretly like
Goofy.
Yeah, he'd be like the one that seems serious, but is definitely very goofy. Okay, he and Gojo in the same room would be a mess.
I mean,
Oh my gosh.
you could get that, like
Have
the
you
voice
seen the meme?
actor. Oh,
Like,
maybe.
memes of them, it's hilarious. You should
Because
try and
the
find
English
it.
voice actor for Dazai plays Gojo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you could technically get both of them in the same room if you ask the voice actor, can you do a conversation between the two of them?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. That's an idea for a con. All right. Um, okay, and then some of our other favorite lines when they're in the airplane and Sophie realizes they have the dog and the witch of the waste. She looks back at them and she's like, I guess it's too late to drop them. They're coming along.
Can't kill them, so might as well keep them.
Yep, yep. And then the classic Howl line where he's like, that's my girl.
Oh, yes.
I've been looking everywhere for you.
Yep.
Yes.
And then another Howl line. Again, I guess that was also on when they're in the little plane thing. When he's talking about Madame Sullivan, he's like, I'm terrified of that woman, but knowing that you were there gave me the courage to show up.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it shows a lot of
Yeah.
growth in his part. And then Sophie, when she returns Howl's heart to him, says, "A heart's a heavy burden." Because he's
Yes,
like,
that's
my
the
my chest is so heavy.
classic line. I see that one on like so many like
Oh yeah, that's like the one you put on a quote on like a poster or of like
Mhm.
a cup or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, I have two.
Okay.
My all-time favorite one that I have said multiple times probably is there's no point in living if I can't be beautiful. Like that was so oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like also personally I related to that. Like how they
Yikes.
there's no
Yikes.
point.
But you are 100% Howl. You spend an hour in the bathroom.
Oh
And then like you come out smelling like in the book at least it's always like he
Lavender.
smells like flowery perfume and that's you. Like every time you walk by like, "Oh, Ruth put on her perfume."
that's funny. Okay. My second one is when he like takes the note out from Sophie out from the witch the way said like she was cursed
Oh,
and
yeah.
like burns the table and like without even reading he's like, oh, that cannot be good for the table and he like wipes it
Yeah,
off.
Yes. And then
That's a good one.
He's so chill back. He's like, "Oh, the curse is still there. I just got rid of the mark."
Cannot be good for the table and just like nah, just screw the curse.
I also
Table.
his facial expression when he was wiping away, like he got this like really intense look. Like
Yeah.
you never see Howl really mad,
Yeah.
but in that moment he looked kind of like scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was it was kind of a really intense moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all we had. Ruth, do you have any closing remarks in your little document
yeah,
there?
and all my notes that I have taken.
Well, you got to explain why you have the notes.
Well, I do have the notes because I have a friend who wrote a paper on this movie, and I own it on disc because
Yes, of course you do.
like if I've watched it like 20 times, of course I own it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wrote a bunch of notes for her to help her because I was like, there are so many small details about this movie that like you just can't miss. So I feel like one thing that I noticed is the first time that Howl meets Sophie, it's like, yes, make knows what I'm talking about. So I thought like towards the end, when she like goes back in time and she sees him and she's like, how meet me in the future? The first time he sees her and he says like, there you are, I've been looking for you. He actually was looking for her because she said, meet me in the future. And he was like, there she is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. And wait, did you notice that his ring is glowing in that scene?
No, oh my gosh, I
Yep.
didn't.
Yeah, I missed that too, but then I saw a screenshot. I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of, there's a little shine to it. And that
Oh
makes
my
sense
gosh.
because the ring leads her to Howl later.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And then,
Soulmates.
so another thing that I feel like is very important is when they were leaving the king's castle, like when Sophie was with him in the Wish of the Waste and he gave her the ring and he was like, use the ring to like summon Calcifer.
Someone with your heart,
Yeah,
right?
like summon my heart with your heart. And I was like, ooh, me.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yes,
Okay.
guys. That like
It's all
once you
connected.
realize like, ooh, they're in love.
Of course they are.
Yes. And another thing, every time that Sophie like turns young, like while she's under the curse, it's because she's like more confident in herself,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why she's turning young. So that's why and you also notice that like throughout the movie, she like slowly gets like younger and younger towards the end, and that's because she is like more confident in herself. So like actually, like one of the plots in the movies is Sophie like learning to like love and respect herself and like have confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it.
I will link another video in the playlist we will make, where it's cinema therapy and they've analyzed this movie and they're talking about like the character journeys and the different life experiences that you can relate this movie to.
Yes, I think that's like the end of my very important notes. Like the most notable ones. Again, I feel like until the day I die, I will constantly be finding new things about this movie.
That's what makes a great movie. You get more and more.
The more you watch, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. I love it. It's great. It's great. I love, this is like totally random, but I love the scene where she's like shopping and she's like trying to buy to like get food and everything. She does it. Marco's like, oh, I hate that.
Yep.
Like that was just kind of funny to me. I was like,
classic
little
kid.
Yeah, I don't like potatoes. I don't like fish. So funny.
That was a really good imitation. Yeah. It makes sense though because Sophie's kind of like the first person coming into their lives who's like, we need a little bit of structure. We need like a little, like we're gonna have breakfast together and we're gonna keep things tidy. Because Howl is sort of like, I mean, he made sure Markle was taken care of, but he wasn't exactly a parental figure to Markle, so they let the place go.
That man was too busy pursuing women.
So true. He's a ladies' man.
Yeah, less so in the movie, more so in the book. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, in the book it's crazy. like, bro, chill.
Well, when you don't have a heart and you're looking for feeling, for emotion, makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, no, like after you learn that everything he does makes sense by the end of the movie.
And when he's got his heart back, you know it only belongs to Sophie.
Yes, it does.
Lucky girl. Lucky man.
Right, he's a lucky man. Yeah, all right. That is our review of Howl's Moving Castle.
Thanks for bearing with us as we just kind of spilled our guts about this film.
Yeah. Not very structured, just kind of winging it, but
yeah. Well, we kind of had to because there's just like we didn't want to go through scene by scene.
No.
Yeah.
Chances are, if you're listening to this, you probably have some experience with the movie, so
yes.
More.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, all these little details.
And now go read the book. Go read the book.
Yes, definitely. Read the book. All right. We will have a episode of Dr. Stone out on Tuesday.
Yep. Till then.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Bye.